Hello there, I'm Corvinus, and in this video I'll try and show you how to easily and effortlessly dominate the campaign when playing as Tyrion. His campaign is one of the easiest ones, if not the easiest ones when playing on legendary difficulty, but still there are some tips and tricks and general strategies that you could use to make it a very pleasant experience, especially if it's the first time playing on legendary difficulty. We're going to take a detailed view at some things while taking a general overview at others, and with that being said, let's get straight into it. The most important step of every campaign is the beginning. The first 10 or 20 turns are going to be crucial in setting yourself up in a strong position, which will then carry you out throughout the rest of the game. And to do that with Tyrion, you have to win a couple of early fights, which are going to be very easy. Instead of rushing the Tower of Lycian on turn 1, I would suggest waiting for the second turn, by which time you will have recruited 3 more units of archers. These archers are going to be crucial in making the fight very trivial and ensuring that you do not take excessive casualties, because with them you'll be able to eliminate the enemy's ranged units, which are the only ones that actually stand a chance at dealing any damage to your army. The only other thing left to do at turn 1 is to start your research. Now when the second turn comes, we're gonna attack the Tower of Lycian and we're gonna fight the battle manually. Remember to prioritize their ranged units, and wasting their ammo with Tyrion goes a long way here. There is no need to sack the settlement, you can just occupy. Sacking will come later. Remember to recruit some more archers over the end turn. For the level up, I highly suggest going down the blue line all the way to Lightning Strike at the beginning. And the Root Marcher is going to come really handy in these first few turns. For the Noble, take the Secure Influence trait. You're not going to be using him in the army for much longer. The only thing he's going to be used for is generating more influence, which will be very important. To build up Lothern, you can either go for the money building or the growth building. It doesn't really matter all that much. I went for the money one so I could afford a few more units of archers at the beginning. This probably goes for all factions, that the first 10 or 20 turns are pretty boring. There's not a lot going on. You only have one army, maybe 1 or 2 towns, but they're crucial to do them right for what comes later. So on turn 3 we're going to move Tyrion to Lothern, recruit some more archers, end the turn. On turn 4 we're going to move to Angerial. This is the second fight that we have to win in order to consolidate the province. It's a pretty easy fight. Fight it manually, prioritize their ranged units, shouldn't take a lot of casualties. Just occupy the settlement, there's no need to sack it. It's just gonna incur repair costs and the building devastation public order penalty. As we said earlier, just focus the noble on securing influence and hero actions. On Tyrion it doesn't really matter, the first 4 traits are not all that useful. But what you're aiming for is Lightning Strike. Over the end turn, recruit some more archers. At this point, you might as well just disband the White Lions and the Tyrion Chariots. They're not very useful and they're just siphoning a lot of your cash. I think it's like for the Tyrion Chariot you can put 3 more units of archers. With Lothern, just keep building it up. Here I made a mistake. I'm going to choose the noble building, which is going to be useless for at least 20 more turns. I should have went for growth, but oh well, what can you do? This is another mistake. I recruited this lord 2 turns too early. But this is what the video is for me to do the mistakes and point them out so you won't have to do them in your own campaigns. Seeing as you don't have any influence yet, you're going to have to choose a lord with a negative trait. Just pick the one that has the least damaging one of them. That's about it for the turn, and next turn we're gonna attack the Shrine of Aenarion. But we're not gonna occupy it. There's no need for it. You could do it if you want to, but it's just gonna make you have to go looking for treasure chests in the sea in order to level Tyrion. This way it's much more efficient to use it as a sack city for a few turns. It's gonna help with experience, a little bit of money, and it's just better than doing nothing while you're waiting for things to develop further. At this point you can take the noble away from your army and use the Shrine of Aenarion to secure influence with him. It's gonna be slow, but a little bit is better than nothing. get a staunch line of spears. They're gonna be useful in holding the line while your archers pepper the enemy. For now, we're just gonna sit here and sack the settlement every turn until an opportunity presents itself. And I'm gonna use that time to talk about why this campaign is so very easy. It's because there are no threats to you. Nothing. Nobody's gonna attack you. The High Elves are very, very unlikely to attack you. The only threat is gonna come from the Chaos Warriors, or maybe if Morati goes apeshit on Tyrion, but that's at least 40-50 turns away, maybe even more. So theoretically you could sit here and sack the settlement until you have Tyrion at level 40, which is what makes this campaign so easy. There are no threats to your existence. But anyway, we're not just gonna idle here while we're waiting for a good opportunity to present itself. We're gonna use our time constructively and use it to research, build up our towns, and use influence to increase our relations with the legendary lords that we are aiming to confederate later on. And if you want to confederate all of them, you have to start with Calidor, because it's the fastest and easiest way to get in contact with Imric, who is the most likely one to get killed off early in the game, due to his difficult starting position. Actually, out of the 5 legendary lords that you can confederate, 3 of them are in danger of being killed off early, the other 2 being Ulthuan and Teclis, who both have very difficult starting positions. The other 2 are safe because they're on Ulthuan. The reason we're focusing on Calidor is because otherwise, to make contact with Imric, we'd have to send a hero all the way to the fortress of Warag, which would delay everything by at least 20 turns, probably more. But anyway, we were waiting for an opportunity to show itself, and here it is. We're gonna use this army, Count Noctilus, to join war with Calidor against them, which is gonna boost our relationship massively and speed everything up. You can just offer to join in return for a trade agreement or whatever. It's gonna give you around 40-50 points into your relationship with them. Coupled with a few increases with influence, should put us well over 100 points of a relationship with Calidor. I should have also joined Ivres's war against Grandpunch and Alariel's war against the Dark Elves, but I forgot to do it in this campaign. You should do it in yours. The fight is gonna be fairly easy. They're undead. The balance of power is lying because of the bloated corpses, which you can either shoot down or just tank the explosions with Tyrion. Anyway, after defeating this army, it's gonna take a while for them to send another one, if they even do it. So in the meanwhile, we're just gonna continue sacking the city for a few more turns until another opportunity presents itself. This time we're gonna wait for an army of Safari to move downwards, because I think they're at war with either the Dread Fleet or the Broken Axe. They're gonna be at war with one of them 100% of the time. Leveling wise, we're aiming to get to Lightning Strike on Tyrion. It's a mandatory trait for High Elf Lords because they're using archer based armies. I'm gonna go more in depth on that later. But for now, just keep sacking, keep leveling, keep building up your provinces, and wait for a good opportunity to attack Safari. At this point, Tyrion's army is full, so we can start working on our second army. The Lord is a placeholder for now, but we are going to be fishing for a decent Lord. One that has a 60 influence trait that either boosts entire ranged armies, or boosts archers, or boosts Sisters of Avalorn, whichever one you find first. By now, from all the successful hero actions on the Shrine of Aenarion, your noble should have banked 20-25 turns of influence generation, so you can at this point send him down to make contact with Teclis, and after he does that, you can send him up north to make contact with Nagaryth. Keep building up your second army and get ready to attack Safari. And as soon as you can afford the 60 influence cost, switch out the placeholder lord with one that has a decent trait. Like in here, I managed to get one that gives all ranged units 10% reload speed, which is gonna be very useful. Also some campaign movement and infantry speed, which can have its uses. And now our patience and waiting has paid off, and we're gonna catch Saffrey's main army in forced march, which is gonna make the fight that much easier, not that it was a hard fight to begin with. And there's a little bonus, the army is outside the settlement, so that means that we're gonna have 2 fights, which means a little bit more experience for our lords, which is always a good thing. If Yvres is already at war with them, offer to join the war for a little bit of relation improvement, otherwise just declare and don't trust the power bar. This fight is very easy to win. At this point you're gonna want to use the invocation of Vol, which will allow us to siege and attack the Tower of Hoeth on 1 turn instantly, and maybe even kill a Tower of 2 if you can get it to work. But since we already killed their main army, this fight is gonna be very trivial. You can just use your archers to shoot over the walls, or as you're gonna see here, because we overwhelmingly outnumber them, I will just auto-resolve the battle. And that's gonna be all for Savory. They're basically done at this point. As an aside, do not sack major towns. You want to get them to level 4 as soon as possible, and bringing their level down by sacking is gonna be very detrimental. Sooner or later our work with Caldor will pay off and we will confederate them, and then we're free to start working on Imric and Teclis, in that order probably. You will want to disband their armies, they are probably just a money sink and not very useful. And sooner or later you'll be able to confederate Imric, which you should do as soon as possible so you can move on to Teclis and Ulthuan before they get killed off. Now concerning Imric, there are 2 things that you can do here, depending on how you want your campaign to go. You can either disband the armies and let the territory go and re-recruit Imric 5 turns later on Ulthuan, or you can stay here and duke it out with the Greenskins and Clan Ashen. The choice is yours. It's gonna make the campaign more challenging, but in my opinion also it's gonna make it more fun. But if you decide to keep him, the first thing that you're gonna do is disband most of his army, because he has some really expensive units here which are really not worth the price that you're paying for them, and that includes the Dragon Princes. You can keep the dragon because he can be very useful in a fight. And Imric may be the Dragon Prince, but we are definitely not ready at this point to give him a dragon stack. We'll need Caldor up to level 5 first, probably Vol's Anvil, and every other upkeep reducing town or trait or building that we can find, because dragons can be very expensive, especially if you have 6-7 armies roaming around. In the meantime, you'll have 5 turns of Confederation penalty, which you can use to boost your relations with the next target that you want to confederate. Probably either Teclis or Ulthuan, depending on what kind of situation they're in at the moment. And by that I mean if Teclis is safe and strong, go for Ulthuan, and vice versa. By this point of the campaign, you should have a few settlements at level 4, which means we can recruit more nobles and mages and handmaidens. The nobles you're gonna want to set out to do hero actions and increase your influence. Mages, you're gonna be looking for mages with the entrepreneur trait and parking their asses in Lothern so they can make money for you. And the same with handmaidens, though it's a bit harder because the trait is not guaranteed on them, unlike with the mages. Next on the menu is getting rid of the other high elf factions, the ones that don't have legendary lords. Declare war on them when able. If possible, join somebody else's war on them for some relation improvement, or if not, just declare war and occupy their settlements, with the exception of the gates. That is a very important step, because you'll be confederating a lot of legendary lords. They are all going to be very low level. So you can go ahead and use the gates for 10 turns, 20 turns, depending on how long you can afford to do so, to level them up quickly. By this point the game diverges into way too many variables for us to be able to talk specifically about any one thing. So I'm just gonna put a battle on in the background and talk about the general goals and things you need to do from this point forward. By this point you should have confederated all the legendary lords that you are going to confederate in the near future, that being Imric, Teclis, Ulthuan, and Aenarion. I tend to leave Eltharion alone for a little while so he can be a sort of a buffer and help me out with the chaos invasions down the line. But that's your choice. You can do that, or you can confederate him and use his army to battle chaos. One or two armies should be enough as long as they are leveled enough and have lightning strike. As I said previously, two lords should be constantly sacking two gates that are left from Illyrion or Tyrion, just so they can level up, especially Teclis. He needs to be level 25, maybe 30 to be as effective as you want him to be with his spell casting. And with all the legendary lords that you have at this point, you're going to want to do the quest battles, or take the items, or pick the skill traits on your skill tree that boost your entire faction. Like with Ulthuan, you'll want to take that increased missile damage faction-wide for all ranged units, and the +3 to public order, I believe it was. Same with Aenarion and Tyrion and Teclis. And the other thing that you need to do is keep building up your provinces, getting them to tier 4, so you can start building mage towers and noble recruitment buildings and all that good stuff that you're going to need for the future, especially the mages. By turn 60-70 you should aim to have 8 to 10 mages with the entrepreneur trait sitting in Lothern, which will be generating 10, 12, 15, maybe 20,000 gold depending on how lucky you've been getting, which is going to by itself allow you to raise and upkeep 3 or 4 armies. And when you get to that level, you're basically unbeatable. You can do whatever you want. But I would suggest going after Morathi before she gets strong enough to cause some headaches for you. And after Morathi you can go for Malekith, you can go downwards into Lustria, you can invade Reichland, you can do whatever you want. And at that point you should be rich enough to start replacing your archers with Sisters of Avalon, at which point you won't even need spearmen anymore, because the sisters are better than them in melee, surprisingly. But you'll still want to keep 2 bolt throwers in your army so you can instantly attack wall settlements. The one thing that you have to worry about at this point is chaos invasions. There will be one from the north and one from the south. Good thing about the donut is that it's kind of far from the south, so typically the southern chaos invasion armies are going to be dealt with by the factions of Lustria, and the northern ones are going to be split between attacking Ulthuan and attacking the Dark Elves up north. But you should still keep 1 or 2 armies up north just to protect against them. And you'll have to do that all the way until Archaon is spawned and gets his ass kicked by Kislev and Reichland. Once Archaon is defeated, there'll be no need to keep any more armies on Ulthuan, so you can focus on conquering whatever you want to conquer. That being said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope this video will help you out in your own campaigns. Seeing as this is the first video that I'm uploading to YouTube, if you could tell me down in the comments what you thought about it and ways I could improve my videos, that would be very helpful and I would be very grateful. Also, would you like me to be more detailed and go further into specifics of armies, lords, heroes and all that? Or would you like a more general overview of the campaign? Anyway, thanks again for watching and have a good one.